As soon as you start thinking it can't work, it won't work.
I wonder if you feel like there's room in this music for terror, anxiety, for fear.
For sure.
I showed up as myself, and I continue to show up as myself. Sometimes I'm the only one.
On this channel, I talk to artists and creatives about expanding their limitations, achieving their goals, and finding more satisfaction and success on their creative journey. But what if the real key to making your best work isn't trying harder, but letting go entirely? There's a quote that Rubin puts at the front of his book on creativity, The Creative Act, which reads, "The object isn't to make art, it's to be in the wonderful state which makes art inevitable."
It's all instinct. I don't know anything about music at all. So coming at everything with this open desire for pure understanding with no beliefs, no baggage.
As I write this, I wonder if you've ever noticed moments or periods in your own creative journey when something has just clicked like this, and without even trying, you started to make work you're really proud of, or perhaps even something that feels like it's not you so much anymore and it's being channeled through you in a way.
You ever get surprised by what you yourself and your creative partners here make?
Yes, that's the cool thing about it, because we don't know what's going to happen. The reward is greater when it happens because everybody's a part of it, everybody's listening. And when it's going, you're like, whoa, like, what is that?
If there's anything that comes to mind, I'd love to hear about some of those moments or experiences in the comments below. But as for Rubin, it's easy to see why he opens the book with this quote, because it points to the creative approach that is synonymous with his character, an approach that moves away from chasing specific outcomes and toward cultivating the state that makes art inevitable. Maybe you've seen this kind of state exemplified in your favourite artists. They aren't turning up at the studio, putting their uniform on and producing the product. In fact, there's no boundary between their creative, expressive self and the other ways they choose to move through the world. Their spaces, the way they treat people, the things they spend their time doing, every aspect of their life becomes a reflection of the same state which drives their art too.
And when I started the book, I thought it was more about what to do, but as the subtitle of the book tells, it's more of how to be in the world. It's as much about what you're doing when you're not working as when you are working, and living in this open state of curiosity, open state of awareness, kind of like in meditation, which the goal of meditation always was never what happens in the 20 minutes or 30 minutes or hour on the cushion. It's always, you do that as a practice, as training, so that eventually when you're not on the cushion, your reactions are closer to what they would have been sitting on the cushion.
In my recent episodes, I've been looking at the well-established link between ideas within the Zen tradition and the process and creative practice that great artists and creatives bring forward. And just like Rubin's approach in The Creative Act, the Zen tradition tells us that if we want to achieve our full potential, we should focus on cultivating a mindful present state as opposed to forcing ourselves towards specific goals. Here we encounter the Zen principle of Wu Wei, a simple idea, but one which can revolutionize how we think about approaching our creative practice and flip everything we might have been taught about work ethic on its head.
You know, the thing Brancusi said, it isn't difficult to make a work of art. The difficulty lies in being in the right state to do it. Sort of emptying myself of all my baggage so that the subject, whether it's a person or a wave or whatever it is, can come through me onto the canvas or into the sculpture.
Wu Wei can be translated into a number of meanings: effortless action, non-doing, or action without force. And the basic idea is all about releasing our own struggle for control and jumping into the river of flow and productivity that exists all around us. Wu Wei tells us that when we consciously try to force a particular action or result, it only leads to that willingness and energy to be weakened or distorted. And that if instead we can focus on cultivating the right, present, mindful approach, we can drop down into the natural way of things and get in tune with the hyper-productive energy of the universe, which is unfolding all around us.
Do you think in the abstract, we as a society are not empathetic enough?
I think everybody is as empathetic as they should be.
Which means what?
It's not a race. Everybody doesn't have to have the same amount of empathy at the same time. And if it's true empathy, that means you've learned something. So I don't think everyone should have to be measured by the same ruler. I just know that I'm a very sensitive being. I know my audience, trees, birds, wind, and rain. I feel very comfortable and happy speaking my words and my truth in that direction.
I like to think of this concept of Wu Wei as showing us how to take a deeper dive out of the conscious, ego-driven parts of our brain, hyper-focused on planning and goal setting and outcomes, and down into the subconscious, intuitional parts where the emotions and most of the things that really matter actually live. Later on, I want to look at how Andre 3000 has lent into Wu Wei to step through the fire of the stage fright that he's reported having.
For this, it is the complete opposite of what I've done before. So there's a freedom that I'm feeling, and it's more, instead of just improv, like, hey, let's get out here and improv something, it's more trusting the space, trusting my bandmates, trusting the room, trusting what I have to give on that day, and the reward for that trust is a lot greater sometimes than what you've constructed.
But first, I'd like to call out here to you to hear if anything that I've spoken about here resonates with your own experiences. I know I've said it before on the channel, but for me, my best songwriting and those songs that I've written which mean the most to me and have the most staying power have come from those times when I've been non-attached to specific goals and been able to be more present and aware in that moment of creative practice. There's a long history of artists aiming for these kind of non-attached, deeper states of practice. I know there's people in here who have followed Julia Cameron's technique of morning pages, where the writer is instructed to wake up and write without thinking or trying to control their thoughts, to fill a number of pages in front of them. This is an amazingly generative method that aims to pull into those states of Wu Wei where things are seemingly just flowing out of us. I used to use this method of morning pages when I was doing my MA in creative writing, and it was really useful because as opposed to the pressure of pulling forward quote unquote good and structured ideas when I was in the library under deadline, these morning pages would bring about a sense of freedom and unguardedness, and definitely just as much quality and honesty in the writing.
People say that practicing Zen is difficult, but there's a misunderstanding as to why. The most important thing is to express your true nature in the simplest, most adequate way and to appreciate it in the smallest existence. Do not think about anything. Just remain on your cushion without expecting anything.
To take everything at face value, not bring any of your baggage to the things that you see. So no previous beliefs, including what is and isn't possible. That's a big part of it.
I spoke in a recent episode about the visual artist approach of automatism, which again leads into these principles of non-conscious action. Automatism, or psychic automatism, is where the artist tries to create without conscious thought. and tries to bypass conscious thought by using methods that bring about chance within the work, randomness, and forms of expression and meaning which might reach beyond the limitations and conscious understanding of the artists themselves. Pure psychic automatism, Andre Breton says in the 1924 Surrealist Manifesto, is the dictation of thought in the absence of all control exercised by reason and outside all moral or aesthetic concerns.
Every day for 20 years, I would say, what am I going to do next? That's how I ask for inspiration. I don't have any ideas myself. I have a vacant mind, in order to do exactly what the inspiration calls for. I make up my mind that I'm not going to interfere, not have any ideas. That's really the trouble with art today. It seems to me the artists have the inspiration, but before they can get on the canvas, they've had about 50 ideas. And the inspiration disappears.
And Wu Wei isn't just for generative creative acts like writing or painting. As I said, later on, I want to look at how it applies to sharing our work online or performing live too. But before that, I wanted to take a quick look at how this kind of approach might be most important in these current times, and how it can help us subvert the emotional avoidance that a lot of culture and our adult human minds might lead us to engage in.
I wasn't trying to make a statement. I just made a song. But it was a song describing how I think and feel.
Yeah.
No, I'm not scared. I mean, it's like, I don't have to defend myself. I'm not afraid of death. I mean, I'm sure there's something else. Or life.
Yeah.
And part of living is pain and fighting and healing, one healing and healing and healing after the other. And I choose to do that.
There's a practice in a lot of different styles of therapy which asks us to connect with our internal feelings, our deeper emotions, as opposed to engaging with the acrobatics that might be formed within our conscious brain to rationalize these emotions or try to understand them in some kind of analytic way. The way I've heard practices like this described can vary depending on the style of therapy, but the basic direction that's shared is something like, when there's a kind of anxiety or repeating negative pattern of thinking going on, you should try to detach from the thought itself and instead focus on what you're actually feeling, what emotion underlies it, and what effect it's having physically on your body.
First, I'll just make a general observation that for those who do any kind of meditation, essentially what that's a lot about is recognizing when you're sucked into the simulator, the default mode network, and you're swept along with various mini movies, and when you're not. And so much of what meditation's about, especially sort of fundamental mindfulness meditation, is about recognizing the early hooks, the allure of the little trains. They want to get you to hop on board and then letting them go on by. Tune into the internal sensations of your body. Bingo. You engage the insula when you do that through interoception. And as soon as you engage the insula with the internal sensations of your body in a deliberate way, that acts like a circuit breaker of the default mode. It brings you into sensation. Brings you into sensation in real time, continually changing. That's really effective.
In the Zen tradition, they talk about the arrows of suffering hitting twice. The first arrow of suffering being the actual suffering itself, and the second being the self-inflicted wounds we apply in our heads when we resist the suffering and try to stop ourselves feeling it. The artist who wants to release their first set of paintings and arrange an exhibition might be forced to feel the uncertainty and vulnerability of exposure and failure as they do so. To the egoic conscious brain, these fears and unfamiliar experiences represent a danger and something that needs to be controlled. The reality is, the sense that the artist wouldn't be able to hold this kind of fear or uncertainty is probably born from experiences they had as a child or younger person. And as an adult, they very much probably have all the tools and self-reliance to move through those unfamiliar experiences now. But the mind has been built from these old stories and old layers of clothing that they've put on. And if the artist allows their conscious brain too much operating space, its default will be to fall back on old pathways of procrastination, maybe debilitating self-doubt, or whatever other form of self-sabotage it's fallen back on in the past in order to control the situation and avoid the possible discomfort of that primary arrow.
We're conditioned to bring stories, our story, to whatever we see. So if I have certain beliefs and I see something happen out in the world, it either confirms my beliefs or it goes against my beliefs. And if it goes against my beliefs, it makes me angry. And if it confirms my beliefs, it puffs me up and I feel good. And it's not really a way to make any progress. You're kind of stuck in this one place, and anything that comes at you either fits your narrative or doesn't fit your narrative.
Are you with me here still? I said in the last episode we were going to go a bit deeper here, so I hope people are still here for it. And if you are tapped in still and want to share any of your own experiences with these forms of self-sabotage, what kind of old patterns come up for you when you approach something new or uncomfortable? It could be a great exercise to share some of these below and also just help people connect through that. Back to Rubin now, and we can see through his words on the page and his interviews how he recognizes the limitations of the rationalizing brain and often spreads the message of the importance of not knowing in our creative journey and not allowing our conscious brain with all its old layers of clothing to get involved and try to get ahead of itself all the time.
We never know until we try things, what works and what doesn't. And I often will think of a bad idea and on purpose try that bad idea just to see where it leads. Sometimes it turns out not to be bad. Sometimes it's worse than I thought. But the spark of seeing this bad idea through, you start recognizing where it can go. It's like, this is a bad idea, but if this part of it got amplified, and if this part of it went away, maybe it's more interesting, and that'll be the next iteration. And it's just a series of iterations, and looking for clues, looking for bad ideas, strange ideas, dangerous ideas, and seeing what happens.
Rubin suggests a simple approach here. Instead of wondering if something is good enough or not good enough all the time, try to accept that you don't know before you try it. And that any sense that you do know already is only going to be massively informed by these internal biases and well-worn patterns in your mind. Our goal as artists then is to bypass that conscious brain, that egoic mind as much as possible, and to live in a place of trying, failing, and just generally favouring action, as opposed to all that rationalising or controlling that we might find ourselves trying to do. I wanted to offer over an image here that might be helpful or just somewhat inspirational. Have you ever repotted a houseplant, and when you lift the houseplant out of the pot, you can see how all the roots have had to squeeze and distort themselves against the limitations of those edges? All this constriction and resistance causing the root pathways to become distorted and unfulfilled. Is it perhaps time to recognize that you have the ability now to detach the plant from that pot that it once required in order to cultivate itself and place it in a more open space, allowing those roots to spread out again and grow to their most natural fruitfulness?
I think I inspire artists. I do. I think I inspire many things just the same way I was inspired when I was young. The same way. I do. I think the reason why I inspire things is because I am just either oblivious to rules, or they don't really sway me. I'm not afraid of it, you know? So I think that's why I'm inspiring. I can be completely myself. You know, I know when to pull back, of course, but I am not afraid to do that. And I don't think anything bad is going to happen if I just be who I am.
I spoke in the last episode about how a focus on presence and trusting your awareness in the moment can allow us to reframe something like stage fright or the nerves around sharing our work in general. This comes from that movement from approaching our practice from a place based on control and attachment to one that reframes it around ideas of presence and acceptance. I think Andre 3000 is an artist that is super useful to look at in this respect, because he seems to have used these principles that we might find in Wu Wei to take ownership of his stage fright, which is something that he reported as being really debilitating. The classic example of someone who struggles with nerves as a performer is that they over-prepare. The artist aims to control every possible outcome so they can turn all the uncomfortable aspects of a live environment into something their rational brain can hold tightly, and a list of things to leave the safety of their house, execute on, then go back to that comfortable place of safety, unchanged. But what kind of an artistic approach really is that? And as a live event, this kind of performance where the artist is focused simply on executing a list of steps and not messing up, how much does this attitude and approach really do for the audience either? Presence in the live act really is everything. And in order to hold that presence, even within a framework of being an introvert or having a lot of nerves, it takes that step that Andre shows us where we embrace the unknown and give over to that idea of letting go.
It's everything. Like, we're kind of hanging on moment by moment. Sometimes it's super beautiful. Sometimes it's very, very scary. Sometimes it's, jubilation just kind of like blowing through the roof. It changes, and you kind of just follow it. And it dictates what happens. So it could be great at times. It can be awful at times.
In the second part of Andre's career, we can see with his album New Blue Sun how he flies in the face of his nervous brain and takes away any power from that classic sense that we want to try and over-prepare and control everything. Andre shows how, as a naturally nervous performer, instead of training ourselves to worry and over-prepare, we can train ourselves to let go and trust the moment, and then accept whatever that outcome is and the process of doing it again. This doesn't mean not practicing. It means practicing with a focus on awareness and presence. It means every time that rationalizing part of your brain comes online and you start to worry about a minute detail based in those control or fear-based mindsets, you're going to try and let that go and offer yourself up to the trust in your presence and awareness, and recognizing the power of just showing up in an aware state in your preparation and on stage.
And when they go out the door, I don't take any further responsibility. I guess I'm rather extreme, but I think we don't deserve any credit. I think the inspiration comes to you, tells you exactly what to do, even when you're painting, tells you every brush stroke.
Andre's improvisational performances should be the worst nightmare for an artist, but leaning into that focus and trust in presence, discovery and acceptance, the lack of exact steps to follow means he can't actually fail, and the reality of a more free approach and the inevitability of small failures means that he's actually managed to master that uncertainty and fear. With Andre's act of letting go, we see that invitation to the principle of Wu Wei on stage. But these attitudes of non-attachment and acceptance are important for artists in other spaces too. I wanted to include this clip with Ethel Cain here, where she speaks about her relationship with the act of letting go of her image into the world when she shares or performs her work in a public space.
You kind of have to understand that if I'm gonna go for this, like, you are accepting to let your life, all of your everything be played out in front of other people, you know, no matter how much or how little of yourself you decide to share, you are saying hello, like, you can watch this, what I'm doing, no matter what your intentions are. It's like when you put yourself on that stage, people are watching, you lose control, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to accept whatever comes with it. And, you know, you can kind of feel whatever you want to feel, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, this is what we're doing now. And so even though there was no way for me to predict the way that, you know, this project would go, or the way that it would affect me or my relationship to the thing that I love, which is creating, it's a gamble, it's a risk, it's high risk, high reward. And that's kind of the craziness of it.
I'm considering doing an episode on Ethel Cain, looking at how she's created a whole world around her music, how she harnesses storytelling and alter ego as a brand builder and business person, and the music and art that lies beneath all of this. From the small amount I've seen of her, it might not be a surprise that her project has been such a huge success. And do let me know in the comments if an episode on Ethel is something you'd like to see. But to conclude the themes of this piece today, we can see that whether it's writing, painting, performing, or just living your day-to-day life, if we think about this approach of Wu Wei, we can release the pressure to try really hard, to resist, to push, and instead form an attitude that recognizes it's in our nature to be fruitful in our life and work. And we simply need to get out of our own way a lot of the time and allow ourselves to be creative, to grow, to feel deeply, and to have joy in our practice.
We just like making music. And yeah, I don't think it was just a really big aspiration to be in the music business. We were both college students. Mm-hmm. We were sending cassettes back and forth from our universities. He would send me a cassette tape of music, and I would, in stale milk, send it back to him with some vocals. And we just kind of enjoyed doing it a lot. I think that is what makes other people really attracted to it. There's no gimmick. There was no, there's not a lot of thought put into it. The music was the main driver.
Now, I think I've probably said plenty for this week, but I'd love to hand this over to you now and ask, what's one thing that you do to create from this place of presence instead of pressure? Please do share your thoughts, ideas in the comments so we can all learn a bit from each other here. And if this episode resonated with you, please do consider subscribing to and sharing it with a fellow creative or just friend, person who might enjoy it. I dive deep into the minds of artists, thinkers and creators every week on the podcast and every couple of weeks on YouTube, exploring what really fuels their work and their lives. And if there's someone who you think might get value from that, do consider sharing this over with them. I also wanted to take a moment to thank the paid subscribers massively this week for helping me do this. It's a constant balance for me to justify the work and hours I put into Creative Minds with being a responsible adult financially too. I see and know the real value this work has for people because I consistently get messages telling me so. But I can't continue to bring this forward if the market doesn't consistently choose to value me and the hours I put in for that. So for any of those paid subs, thanks for being a part of saying that this work matters. And for anyone who's considered supporting here, jump over to the newsletter which is linked below and you can easily go ahead and do that. I hope this has left you with something to think about in your creative practice this week in terms of cultivating presence, leaning into the process, trusting a focus on awareness and arriving in the moment. And yeah, with all that, good luck in your own work and speak soon.